This episode of Behind the Video is brought to you by the Independent Media Network. The Independent Media Network helps journalists and content creators create their own jobs by building sustainable online businesses. If you're an unemployed or underemployed journalist or content creator, visit imnct.com for more information. Hey everybody, welcome back to Behind the Video. Tim Street is joining me from Los Angeles, California. How are you, Tim?
I'm in a Arrested Development hangover.
Oh, so you must have been binging on that, and we'll talk about that in a second. This is, by the way, episode 50. So I think there's more episodes of this show than there are of Arrested Development, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, the production value of our show is much higher than Arrested Development anyway. So,
we do it all in one take, and I think that says something, doesn't it? So
for sure. None of that spit take stuff.
Exactly. So last night I was on is a podcast, and this is incredibly geeky, Tim, so you'll have to forgive me. But there was a podcast for enthusiasts of the Apple II computer that I was on yesterday. And you can go to the Open Apple podcast next week and listen to that.
I'm on a podcast for enthusiasts of the Atari 400.
So. Are you now?
Yeah.
Well, it's so funny you should mention that, because the guy that there's two apps that have been occupying my weekend.
I really wanted the Atari 800 because it had a real keyboard.
But you couldn't get that far. So my wife has a 400 down in the basement, I think. And what's funny is one of the two apps that has been consuming my life this weekend. And let me tell you why I was on the show. So I have this BBS thing that I set up. Long story. You can follow me somewhere else and learn about it. But they do like hardcore production value here, where we each keep separate recordings and then send them in. So these guys, I was like, wow, you guys are really going for the quality here. We're just Google Plus, hit a button, and off till next week. So two apps this week I've been playing with: Tetris Blitz and Karateka. Do you remember Karateka, Tim?
No. I was more of a Bosconian guy myself.
I see. So Karateka is a karate game on the old Apple, and we were talking about that. And actually, the it's on the iPhone now. And the guy that ported it to the Atari, Tim, was the rabbi who officiated my wedding.
Wow,
Isn't
small
that
world.
It is a small world out there. So it is
all these 8-bit connections.
It is. It's crazy. So it's pretty wild. So let's go through our charts real quick, and then we'll get into the meat and potatoes of our weekly broadcast here. So broadcast looks almost like it did last week with let's see, the top five. Number 5 was Dancing with the Stars on ABC with 13 million viewers. NCIS Los Angeles, number 4, with 13 also. American Idol, is it still on? Maybe that was the final. 14.3 million on Fox, and that one really kind of fizzled out, so I wasn't really too crazy about the talent at the end of that. Big Bang Theory, number 2, with 15 million viewers, and NCIS, once again, dominating the number 1.
Look at these numbers, Lon. These are on an upward trend, right? Because they were down like 8 million, 9 million.
We know what happened?
They're back up.
I think when Jason copied over those numbers from the other week, those were like the 18 to 49 audience. So this is everybody. So it was off.
So we had erroneous numbers.
We did, although they were still low, but they were not that low. So we had a little bit of a data issue on that one, but nevertheless, 18 million is still, I think, not what it used to be, right?
Yeah.
So, but still, NCIS is just, and they could just run that show forever. Cable, NBA. That's all you need to know.
I've heard of that.
A little basketball action going on. The finals on TNT.
Well, wait a second.
The playoffs.
There is one other show in there besides, and it does have to be a drama.
It does. The Game of Thrones, one of Tim's favorite shows. Now, Tim, I wonder if they count the HBO Go in that mix.
Yeah, I wonder as well, because the numbers on HBO Go will be extremely more accurate than any other numbers, right?
I would imagine, and I know they're not counting the BitTorrent in that mix, but you can use to say there's 5 million households watching. I think there's probably a few more doing that. So so we'll have to see what we got there. So And I sorry, I typed.
Syndicated shows on the list this week.
Yes, it looks like Jason Perrier, our fearless producer, who is an awesome producer, has found a new list for us to talk about, and that is syndicated shows. So we haven't looked at this before. So it's funny because a lot of it mirrors the network stuff. So Big Bang Theory on the weekend, which is distributed by WB, runs Saturday and Sunday, 7.8 million viewers across the country. Not too bad.
Wow.
Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune have been there forever, and they still are at numbers 4 and 3, 8 and 9 million, 8.8 million for Jeopardy, 9.6 million for Wheel of Fortune. And I don't think there is another show.
Are they counting the whole week? I see it says Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Yes, that is the whole week. So I would imagine that's probably aggregate viewership is probably what that is. So, individually it's probably not so great, but across the board it does quite well. Big Bang Theory on the weekday is also doing well at number 2 at 9.8 million viewers overall. And this is kind of confusing because they put this last one, and I guess there's a rating in addition to the total viewers. So coming in at a 6.7 versus a 6.5 for Big Bang Theory is Judge Judy, one of my favorite judges from Brooklyn. She sounds like
so it had a higher rating but less viewers.
Yeah, so maybe they're looking for a particular age demographics or something. Maybe she does better with a higher more profitable audience, perhaps. But
if we really cared, we'd figure that out.
We'd figure that out. But hey,
yeah,
I'm never home to watch Judge Judy, so it must be the weekday thing. But she is funny.
If you're listening to the show and you happen to know, send us in. There,
Let us know.
We did our work. We
good. Did our due diligence. So
yeah. Do you have any stories for us? Come on, just
yeah.
as long as it's not about cord cutting.
It is about cord cutting.
Okay,
and
all right, fine.
But we got some hard numbers here. So this is according to Leichtman Research Group and reported by Reel, REEL, SEO.com. Pay TV lost 80,000 subscribers in the last year. And those are the cord cutters. And, it seems like a lot, but it really isn't, is it? I mean, it's not like we're talking millions here. We're talking 80,000 subscribers. That's not the end of the world, but it could be the start of the end of the world.
Wait. How much do you pay for your cable satellite? Do you have that?
Yeah, I got cable. I pay, I don't know. I probably pay about $40 for the television part of my cable.
$40.
45.
45 for your television? You don't have HBO or anything like that?
I do. I got a good deal, and I can tell you about that later, but I have HBO,
Okay.
so I think the cable
40,
side is 40, $50.
Okay, let's say $50. I'm gonna say, I got my calculator out here.
Yeah.
Let's say $50 times 8,000,000 equals is that 40 million? 40 million. 40? Let's see. It's hard to read this code. No, it's $40 million.
It's not chump change.
Yeah, and that's on the low end. So if you're paying $100, like a lot of people are for their cable, ouch.
Yeah, it could be. Well, I think it's the start of something that they need to be concerned about. And
will they? It started long ago, my friend.
It did.
Just hey. Oh, on a side note here,
Mm-hmm.
RealSEO.com is a great website. The guys that run it are awesome, and you should go check out Real SEO. See something there, leave a comment, tell them that we sent you. Great information there if you're interested in what it takes to get eyeballs and any information that's kind of in this space on a more technical and deeper dive level than we go into.
Well, I'm going to add it to my my soon-to-be dead Google Reader, and it'll carry over to whatever
Feedly. Get Feedly.
Feedly or Comma Feed or whatever else we Flipboard. It'll be on something, and I will add it to my list. Speaking of the financial impact, ESPN, based here in Connecticut, incidentally, Bristol, Connecticut, of all places, has announced they are laying off a bunch of people, 400.
You think this is due to cord cutting?
Could be. Well, they apparently did not get their margins in where they wanted them to be, and they have laid off people as a result of that. And one of the things that's being discussed here in Connecticut is that they just got a pretty big from from the state to expand their headquarters. So some are wondering about that because
Wow.
obviously you're hoping they'll add jobs, not remove jobs. But these jobs are being let go across the country also, and the Wrap is reporting about that, and I'm sure we'll hear more as time goes on. And briefly, Tim, the Xbox has been reimagined with the Xbox One.
It's amazing. I don't know if you guys were around in the 70s, late 70s, but Panasonic came out with the Technics stereo. It had a dual cassette. And as soon as I saw this Xbox One, I thought, wow, that reminds me of the Panasonic Technics stereo.
I was looking at that and I said, I felt the same thing. It's like, wow, it's kind of like an old 70s component. It's like this box. It is a box. It's a lot less sleek than the current iteration, but it looks pretty cool. And
speaking of the 70s
mm-hmm.
and the Xbox, there's going to be a really, really big director doing some content.
Yes, a man who made his name in the 70s, Steven Spielberg, will be producing, according to The Independent, he will be producing a Halo television series with exclusive content for the Xbox One. So you can keep following the adventures of Master Chief as it goes on. And it's interesting, they've really, the Xbox, the 360 when it came out, was primarily a game machine, and it's kind of transitioned into more of a home entertainment device. This new one is going to be about both, and it looks pretty slick. I'll probably get one, even if I'm not playing that many games these days. I just like my gadgets, so why not? So we'll see how that develops.
Yeah,
now,
it just depends if you get the screen of death or the spinning wheel of death or whatever it's called.
Right. Things melt down and blow up like they did before.
Yeah, I haven't, I've watched a few videos about it. I haven't seen anything where I go, wow, that's so much better than the 360.
I think we're at a point where the games have just progressed to an area where the graphics are probably good enough for most people, and the real graphic hungry people are going to the PC and spending $3,000 on a piece of hardware to play those games. So I think they really have to move in the direction of TV and video, and I think there's going to be some pass-through HDMI on there, so it'll integrate your cable box and everything else. And my hope is that I can get my cable channels that I can't get right now because I refuse to pay Comcast for the HD box. Just don't want to do it. So I'm paying for channels I don't get, but it's a long story.
Well, the WWDC is coming. So,
it is. So maybe we'll see Apple's answer to that.
June 12th-ish, 10th-ish, I can't remember. But we'll see what Apple has to say.
So we will keep an eye on Apple's developments because I'm sure they will have something really cool out there that hopefully will help some of our independent folks get their content out there. And not so independent is the box office, and a huge weekend developing here. The Nikki Fink at Deadline Hollywood is pontificating that this could be the biggest Memorial Day weekend ever.
What was number 5?
Thank you for not making me go to number 1 first. Iron Man 3 is still still hanging on with a cume, and unfortunately we don't have the international numbers yet, but I think Iron Man 3 was on track for $1 billion last week. Domestically, $373 million overall, hanging on at number 5 with another $25 million bucks. Epic, which I think is released this weekend, $44.2 million.
What's Epic? What is that?
I have no idea.
Me neither. Let's Google it. What does it
all
say?
I do is follow baby diapers. Epic tells the story of the ongoing battle deep in a forest between the forces of good and the forces of evil. It looks like it's a cartoon. It's one of those computer animated fantasy adventure deals. So
nice.
Good wholesome, hopefully family entertainment. Star Trek Into Darkness, not doing what they thought it might have done. It's still doing okay. It's brought in $155 million so far, $47 million so far for the 4-day weekend projected. The Hangover 3
that will be getting my money.
That will or will not be.
Yeah, it will. It will.
Yeah, I've heard good things about it.
I just watched the DVD of Hangover again just to kind of get in the mood and
get ready for it.
It's just a solid, fun movie. I mean, it's almost as funny as Wedding Crashers.
Yeah, Wedding Crashers was pretty good, and I liked Horrible Bosses too. That was the other one that I liked recently.
Yeah, that's good.
But Hangover 3, I've heard good things about. Number 1 is, I didn't even know they had 5 of these already, and now there's a 6th one, Fast and the Furious 6, $110 million.
Really matters.
And what's the significance here, Tim?
It's got a 6.
It's got a 6. So they just, you know, you
Yeah.
just keep printing this
Six
different
is
story, same
better.
kind of theme, right? They
6 is
drive
bigger
cars.
than 5.
Right, and I guess it's worked. And now apparently there's a post on Reddit where they look at, apparently there's a runway scene, and somebody on Reddit did the math and said that runway has to be 35 miles long,
Of
so
course.
because they just keep driving and driving. So now moving on to some other news related to the box office here. Your favorite binge show, Tim, Arrested Development, is on Netflix, and now, according to Digital Spy in Canada, that's where our producer's from, by
Hmm.
the way. Ron Howard has said that Arrested Development's relaunch on Netflix will act as a calling card for a feature film.
Well, so did the series finale because I watched the series finale yesterday just before I watched the first episode of the new season. And right at the end of the television version season finale on Fox, Ron Howard says, "Yeah, but there could, sounds more like a movie to me." Um, so that story's been out there for a while.
It sounds like you might be interested in it if he keeps dropping
Yeah, it
those
sounds like it
hints, right?
might be real, huh?
It could be. It could be.
You,
So,
it was also speaking of funny shows, it was Comedy Week on YouTube this week.
yeah. So, any highlights from Comedy Week?
Well, they had a big show in Hollywood. A lot of people were there. Daily Grace from My Damn Channel was there, and uh, gosh, just they brought out big guns. I mean, overall, Comedy Week had people like Sarah Silverman, Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean, big names all over the industry. And then a lot of new folks, a lot of YouTubers were there. Rhett and Link were there. I wonder. It's interesting that Netflix. I mean, it's interesting that YouTube did this big comedy week during the middle of sweeps. And so I wonder if the
Hmm.
numbers are good for them, if they're going to go tout those numbers to advertisers. And if they're not, then they might rethink it. But I wonder what the major impact will be for Comedy Week, and will that finally push YouTube into a position where they steal a lot of television advertising dollars.
So that's probably their thinking.
The,
Did you
the,
watch the live special, by the way?
I watched a little bit of it. The production value was, well, let me put it this way. The technical production value was fantastic. Technically, the show looked great. From a content producer standpoint, oof,
So what they did
man.
is kind of hand these YouTube stars the keys and let them do their thing.
Well, no, I don't think it was necessarily so much the YouTube stars, although, there was a lot of foul language, so that's a tough one, a pill
Right.
for advertisers to
Yeah.
swallow. And it was pretty raunchy.
Really.
I mean, really raunchy, but funny,
Mhm.
right? I mean, definitely adult content. But then just switching cameras and not knowing where to go, and it just felt like there had not been enough rehearsal as to what, and I'm sure there wasn't.
So it seems
Um,
like people weren't plan. There wasn't a lot of planning. It seems like that went into this, right? And I guess to some degree it's hard to because everybody is like they have day jobs too, I guess, right? So they really can't rehearse.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, but
Hey, it's worth a shot. And
yeah,
you know,
I think it'll only get better.
how many people did you notice? Like how many people were watching while you were watching? Did you look it down?
Well, during the pre-show, I noticed that there were, I think, the most 50 or 80,000 at the time, and I tweeted that, which I thought was kind of cool that you could watch a live show and actually see how many people were watching. A big global event.
Right.
And I had to go do something, so I didn't stick around for the whole show. But it was great to see the numbers go up. As more people joined the stream.
I tuned in around like 10. So it started at 8 Eastern, and I tuned in around 10 or 10:30 after the
Hmm.
baby was content. And it was around 52,000, or give or take. So it's certainly not a TV sweeps number here because we're looking at millions
No.
for that. But it still had
And
some.
also, definitely one of those things where there was some promotion. I mean, they actually took out TV commercials on TV. And like you'd be watching TV, and all of a sudden, the guy from Epic Mealtime, Harlan, comes on, and you're like, "What? What's he do?"
Right,
Um,
right. Bizarro world. You see them in a
Grace,
different way.
Grace was there, and
Yeah.
it was Bizarro world for sure to see those commercials running on regular television. But I think overall it was a good event, and I think they can do better, and I think they will do better.
That's how you learn. And then I think the nice thing too, especially for YouTube, is that there's not a lot. I mean, certainly there's some cost involved in getting the venue and the technical direction and all the gear in there, but the real distribution costs are pretty minimal. So they can afford to take these kind of risks and maybe have a crappy show every once in a while and learn how to gauge the audience reaction. And I would almost bet that this has been an experiment for them to on a Netflix
Yes.
kind of scale, right? To see what
Yeah.
people are watching when they're tuning in and out. They have such granular data, so I'm sure we'll see more fine tuning of this as time goes on. So
Oh, you know what? Last night when I was watching Arrested Development, there was something that was burned into the screen. I think somebody else will have seen this too, and it'll probably be out there, a report about it. But it looked like whenever there was a shot from the TV show, that they had to use some software to grab that shot from someplace. And it was like a trial version, and it had the burn-in on the video. And
Oh,
it
really?
actually went out that way. So I took a few screen grabs of
Oh,
it,
that's
so
cool.
I can circle back and see what software it was. But
they've
it was,
they've done things like put those little Easter eggs in on that show from time to time, right?
well, it could be, but it looked like a mistake. I mean, it really did, because it seemed like it was only footage from the TV show, and I could bet that they somehow had trouble physically getting the right copy, and so they had to like steal it off of a Blu-ray or something like that. And they
Well,
had
here
to
it
use
is. There's a story on
software.
Variety right now about this. So fans take to Twitter to complain about text watermark joke after series debut. The watermarks were intentional, and it was a joke apparently.
There you go.
But a lot of people didn't find it funny.
That's funny.
But there was a lot of tweets in this Variety story. There's one tweet. WTF is this show stealer pro trial watermark that shows up? Not cool, Netflix. It looks like some people just didn't get the joke, but looks like they threw it in there. So now let me ask you this:
Right.
I have net and I am loath to admit this, but I have never watched Arrested Development before. So should I watch the old episodes first before
Yes.
I? Okay,
Yes.
so I
Yes.
I
Do
will
not
binge
watch
far.
the new one. You don't like. The reason not to watch the new ones first is that there are some cameos in there that are just really fun, and they probably won't make sense.
Got it. Well, I'm gonna go. I think I'm due to watch something else because ever since House of Cards ended, I've recovered from that binge, so I'm ready for a new
There,
one.
there
So
you go. Well, this one will take you a long time. I'm still working off. I'm on my last season of West Wing. So
oh, no kidding. That's a great show,
coming down
too.
the home stretch. It's just like 150 some shows.
Wow.
So yeah.
Just keep watching. So, well, that's cool. So I'm going to check that out this week. Those are like half-hour episodes, right?
No, those West Wing's our show.
Oh, Rest
so
of Development's half-hour, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh, good. So I can burn through that pretty quick. So now let's talk about YouTube charts here for a minute because a wardrobe malfunction has hit our number 5. I think the charts are still a bit messed up. So these are again for the last 24 hours. Mariah Carey's wardrobe malfunction on GMA, and it's not as salacious as you might think it is. But 1.6 million people watched it, probably just looking for salaciousness and not getting any. But her dress just kind of popped and nothing got shown, and the GMA host was really professional about getting everybody through it. So good way to go there. Number 4 is also another potential salacious attention getter, Phil DeFranco. We haven't talked about Phil DeFranco in a while. He got 1.9 million views for his commentary on a movie featuring Jennifer Aniston, where she is playing a stripper. So,
if you're interested in this in any way, just watch the Red Band UK version of the trailer for this new film of Jennifer Aniston.
so you can get all the details on it. And clearly, Phil DeFranco knows how to get views because people, cranked him up there. And actually, the top-rated comment on there was directing people to exactly when in Phil DeFranco's video this particular topic began. So he is certainly going for broke there. I'm going to skip number 3 because number 3 and number 1 are the same. Number 2 is Terminar una relación from Hola, soy German, our Spanish-speaking friend. One of these days, we'll actually know what he's talking about. We'll take a few classes.
He only has a few videos, like a handful. Like, everybody else has 100 videos.
Yeah.
I want to say he's like got, I don't know, 15.
And
it's not a big number.
And he's doing well every time he puts one
He's
up.
doing great, yeah.
So it's amazing. I wish I knew what he was talking about. I need to learn more languages, Tim.
There you go. When you get up in the middle of the night to feed the baby, start get the Rosetta Stone.
The Rosetta Stone.
Yeah.
To start talking. And the baby could learn a language too at the same time.
That's right.
It's a good time. They say you're supposed to do that.
That's
so
right.
I'll have a multilingual baby by the time we're done. So
number
one.
Number one.
Will Smith and his son.
Does that have anything to do with Will Smith and his son?
It sure does. And not only that, though, DJ Jazzy Jeff, and of course, we've got Alfonso Ribeiro there too.
Wow!
And this is from the Graham Norton show on the BBC. It's actually a good talk show, and I've only seen clips of it. It's because he does some funny stuff when they're on there. But last year
how do you see those clips?
You see them on YouTube. Isn't that amazing? Because the BBC puts them up on YouTube, and I'm sure and probably before people can put their own versions up. And about a year ago, they had Will Smith on that show, and he sang rapped the song to that show he used to be on, the Fresh Prince of
Bel-Air.
Yes, and it's funny to listen.
Jazzy Jeff.
That's right, and it was funny to hear the audience in England singing this along with them.
Nice.
So this year, Will Smith brought his son Jaden, who's becoming a talented rapper in his own right, and then they transitioned from that to getting DJ Jazzy Jeff on the stage, a little medley of some other songs, and then.
Do you think he comes over the house all the time?
He's got to.
He's over there all the time.
I had his album. Parents Just Don't Understand. Great album. 1989, I think, was the year. But not that it matters. It's on Spotify. But that was where it all began, and so he did quite a show, and he brought his co-star who played Carlton from the Fresh Prince, who joined him on stage, and collectively they racked up the number 3 and number 1 spots for almost 8 or 9 million views. So people like Will Smith, they like Carlton, and they love reunions, and they apparently will love Will Smith's son too. He's pretty talented kid. So good stuff.
It's kind of like a history.
It is. And speaking of which, there's an article in Adweek about a brief history of web video. I thought, Tim, you might be interested in this story.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It looks great. I mean, it all started with South Park, right?
Yeah, it did. And it was a file that was... I saw this. Now, this was like this South Park thing that never aired, and it was a raunchy... Jesus versus Santa Claus thing? Was that what it was?
Yeah, so when Matt Stone and Trey Parker were trying to get into the business, they made a animated short and sent it out as like a Christmas card to Hollywood on VHS. And this thing was so funny, it started getting passed around. It was viral on VHS in Hollywood, and that's really what launched their careers.
Now, were you around when this was happening, Tim?
I never saw it in the when it was happening. I heard that it was happening, but I never got a copy of it. People would talk about it at parties and stuff, and I never saw it back then. But I did see there was some other video that somebody made of one of the stars from Baywatch and a rock musician. I can't remember.
Right, one of the first of those. Right, Interesting. Well, it's funny. The South Park video I found on a PlayStation game, and it was one of those things that it was burned on every disc. Nobody knew it was there, nice. And the developers just put it on there and they hid the file. And I don't know how somebody must have gotten tipped off that it was on the disc because you had there was a whole set of instructions, but. You pop the disc in your computer, you drag the file off, rename it, and then play it, and all of a sudden, whoa, there it was. And that's when it really took off with the rest of us who are not in the Hollywood know. And kind of a neat look back on how video got distributed back in those days. And it was all physically handed off to people, and now things go viral much faster than they used to. Speaking of which, and this is some sad news, another viral video star, Zach Sobiek, passed away, who... had cancer, but really, I think lived his last couple years to the fullest. He was only 18, just had gotten out of high school, or was about to graduate high school, and he made a song with his best friend called "Clouds," which is gotten 2.9 million views on YouTube and is a real hit on iTunes as well. And what a inspiring story. There was another documentary on him also, with probably a 20-minute piece on YouTube as well, that kind of detailed Zach and his family and his friends, and what a wonderful family, and what a terrible thing they've all had to endure. But Zach's approach to dealing with his mortality at a very young age was really inspiring. So I do suggest you check that out. And it's really sad that cancer is still what it is, unfortunately. But it'll make you smile, though, so check it out. So we have two things on our agenda here, Tim. We have an app of the week, and we have a topic of the week. I'm going to start with the app. Not necessarily an app this week, but it's related to an app, and this is Twitter.
Is this for your safety kind of thing?
This is for your safety, public service announcement. So you'll recall that the AP had their Twitter account hacked recently, and I don't know about
Press.
Yes, and it nearly tanked the stock market in the process, because whoever hacked the AP said the White House was blown up, and the stock market actually reacted to that. So Twitter got on their game and finally put some things in place, and not at the moment too soon, because Tim, how often do you get like direct messages from your friends telling you to click on stuff?
I get direct messages from people I don't know, and I'm like, man, I don't remember following this person. That really scares me.
And these are people whose accounts get hacked, and then these bots send out stuff, and you click. Well, hopefully you don't click on it, but you click on it. Next thing you know, you're infected. And part of it is because Twitter is or was, and still is to some degree, very very easily gives away access to your account when you click on things. If you say, sure, go ahead and post as me. Yeah. So there's this is what happened to the AP. So they had a bunch of users who had access to that Twitter account, and one of them clicked on a link and got this whole thing going. So there's a new thing called two-factor authentication that Twitter has just turned on, and what that will do is tie your Twitter account to your cell phone. This is on other systems also. There's one on, I think I talked about.
What if you have
Google.
Multiple accounts?
See,
that's your Clark Kent and Superman.
That's the only problem with it right now, is that it only allows you to attach one cell phone to one account. So
so this is good for the cell phone industry.
It is. You're going to buy a lot of cell phones. I did find that it does work with Google Voice, so you could open up a bunch of Google Voice accounts too if you wanted to do that. So I've got two accounts that I'm really concerned about, that I've attached one to Google Voice and one to my cell phone.
One is behind the video. Behind the video.
Behind the video.
And
it is
we
locked
need some
down.
Followers there, because we just launched it. Really, we've had it for a long time, but now we're actually tweeting stuff from there.
We are, and you should go on there and follow Behind the Video, and do not hack it, because you can't. So basically what happens is when you try to log into your Twitter account after you turn this thing on, it's going to text a message to your phone, and you have to type that in before it lets you in. Now, it won't interrupt your apps and other things that you've already set up in the interim, but if some new thing wants to gain the ability to tweet on behalf of you, it requires a little bit more authentication. So I would definitely suggest turning that on. It does add a little bit of inconvenience because some things require a one-time use thing. It's a long story, but I have a video I'm working on this weekend, so do a search on YouTube for it, and I'll give you the whole lowdown on that. So I definitely suggest you turn that on. Now, our topic of the week, I wrote to Tim, and I said, Tim, what should we talk about this week? And Tim writes back with one word: LinkedIn. And we don't often think of LinkedIn as a platform for content, but I think it can be of great help for content creators. And Tim was eager to share some thoughts on that. So
Juan, do you use LinkedIn?
I do, but not to the extent that I should.
What do you use it for? What do you do there?
And when people ask to follow my profile, that I know, I say sure. I've changed my resume around a little bit, so I have updated it to let people know what I'm doing and stuff. And I think I connected my Twitter account to it, but I really haven't done a lot.
Yeah. So you're most people I think are kind of in your ball camp or your ballpark, where they're using LinkedIn, they've got their stuff entered there, but they're not using it the same way that they would use Twitter, or they're not using it the way that they would use Google to go find information. And if you are interested in connecting with other people, not necessarily for a job, but let's say you're looking for a sponsor for your show, or you're looking to sell your product or service to somebody, or you're looking for a strategic partnership, or you're trying to find other like-minded people. LinkedIn has a lot of great things. And so the first thing I would suggest is go through and dust off your LinkedIn account. Go in there, clean it up, put as many things as you possibly can in there in terms of your resume, in terms of your Twitter, in terms of your contact information, so that if people want to get a hold of you, they can get a hold of you. Then the next time you find yourself going, man, if I only knew a person at this company, it's time to go to LinkedIn. You go to LinkedIn, they have great search tools there. You type in the name of the company, and then all of a sudden you realize there are 3 people that you know that know somebody at that company. Now, when you get to that point, there's a couple things you can do. One, how well do you know your friends that know them? You can shoot your friends an email and go, hey, do you know John over at Kodak? Because I hear they're having a fire sale, and I
some film.
I need some film. You know, and John will write back, hey, you know, I met him at an event, and yeah, I don't really know him that well. So then you're like, well, okay, so John's not going to introduce me. Let me see if I can, oh, wow, this guy has his Twitter handle listed in his LinkedIn account. You go to Twitter, you follow the guy follows you back. And I'm using guy because if it was a woman, it sounds kind of stalker-ish and creepy. But you can retweet something that person did. And, you know, depending on how you want to play it, you build a relationship with them and you contact them and you ask them for the thing that you need to ask them. Now, there's yet another way. LinkedIn has a premium version where you can buy, and I think the lowest you can pay is for contacting is around $20 a month. Maybe it's 25, I forget. Could even be a $15 one. But you buy that and you get a couple of, they're called in-mail contacts that you can contact somebody directly with. I have the version where I get like 10 of those a month. And so I use those to contact
You pay for
people.
that, right?
Yeah, I pay for that. And so like, I use a lot when I'm doing stuff for mDialog. So if I see somebody where it's like they work in ad operations or they work at a studio or a network and I don't know them and they look like somebody that would be interested in dynamically inserting video into a live linear or VOD stream in HLS or HDS, then I will reach out to them and go, hey, I'm curious if you would be interested in, you know, dynamically inserting video into a live linear or VOD stream. Would you like to chat about it? Boom. It's a short to the direct point kind of email that goes directly to them. And you can, they also, sometimes there's an area for contacting them as to what they're interested in. Are they interested in catching up with old friends, business deals? And then below that, there's a little thing that says, are you, or do you have any advice for people contacting you? And so sometimes people will have advice there, and then they also list how you're connected to that person. So you might know somebody at the same company that knows them, and you might want to mention them in that little note that you're sending as well.
So let me ask you a quick question though. Do people find that that when you do that in-mail thing that you're spamming them? I mean, is there something that makes that message a little bit more receptive?
Well, that's the thing. If you mention the people that you know in common, and if you're mentioning something that they might be interested in, then and you make sure you put that in the subject line, then it's not so spammy. You know,
so it's really working that network.
If somebody came to you and they said the subject line was easily integrate YouTube videos into Google Plus Live, or Google Plus Hangout, some short version of that. Make it 5 to 8 words. But if that was in the subject line to where you could easily drop your videos into the show, into this show,
right,
and share those videos real easy, you'd be interested in finding out more, right?
Sure, and especially if they knew people that I knew, I'd be less likely to just ignore them, right?
Exactly. And so there's a little rating. So if you go spam people, they can like click on there and lower your rating that you are spamming. So you'll be caught if you're a spammer. But really, really valuable tool. And here's the kicker: if they don't respond, you get those back. So if you have 10 of those a month, and you send out 10 of them and nobody responds, you get those back. You get to
that's
use
a good
them
deal.
again. Yeah, so
They've got a neat thing going there.
Yeah, so it's a really valuable thing. I mean, a lot of times, though, creative folks are scared to contact people, like the whole sales thing.
Right. You got to do it.
You got to do it.
Because you got to do it in this day and age. There's no sales department anymore. You got to be the sales department.
Yeah, unless you can afford to hire somebody, you better figure out how to do it yourself.
Right, and you can't, and you're not going to be able to afford to hire somebody until you take that first step and do the sales yourself. So that is.
And there's a LinkedIn app as well that you can use on your phone. So it's really great, really powerful, especially when you use it in conjunction with like Salesforce or Zoho CRM or any of those contact relationship management software tools. LinkedIn is really powerful. I kind of wish LinkedIn had the CRM component so that you could track your different sales right in LinkedIn. Then it would be game over. I would have no use for Salesforce.
Interesting. Yeah, it's funny. I was at a meeting the other day, and somebody said to me, I added you to LinkedIn like 4 months ago, and you never responded. I was like, oops, I haven't been on LinkedIn in a while. I need to get in there. So it's
the answer to that is I'm really bad at LinkedIn.
Yeah, that's what I say to people, and nobody believes it because they know I'm so good at everything else on this stuff.
I was really bad at it, and then I forced myself to like update my account. And really, what happened was I ran into the LinkedIn people at a convention, and they showed me what I was doing wrong. So
and I think that's the key to
very
it.
helpful.
Because I think once you get it, because I've been, like I said, I've been spending a little bit more time in it. Actually, that encounter made me like start to look more at it. And I'll tell you what, the resume thing, like to really put together what you're about. The resume thing is awesome. You can now add icons to your companies that you're involved with. It's really, really slick, and I'm really digging it. And I think the key to making it work is, unlike Facebook or maybe Google Plus, where you just accept everybody. I've been very disciplined about limiting my connections on LinkedIn to people that I know directly, and that's made a huge difference for me. So I think that's something others should consider too, is really be disciplined about it. And if you have to start over, because it's the value of it really is people that you know, and you're going to get all day long people contacting you that these financial planners are coming out of the woodwork. It's like, ugh, so I spam those guys. So if you're trying to sell me a financial plan, stay away, because I'm gonna report you. But
there you go.
It's good stuff. So, well, Tim, that brings us to the end of our program for this week. We'll be back again next week, and you can catch us live on Google Plus in our community. And it is so easy to get to our Google Plus community. It's easier than our LinkedIn community. Go to behindthevideo.com, and it'll take you right there. You can sign up, join it, start a conversation with us, and we've had a few people giving us some good feedback, and we're going to keep working on bringing back the call-in feature. So you can tune in to that. And we do see our numbers on Stitcher and on iTunes growing, actually. We had a really good week last week. So,
hey, if there's a better time that you would like us to do the live show on Google Plus, because you're listening to it on audio and go, oh man, I wish I could tune in, send us those times. We'd like a little impromptu listener survey, so that if you want to participate in the show, you want to be able to call in on Google Plus, send us those times, because we're up for trying different times to do this show, because Lon's up in the middle of the night with the baby.
Yeah.
So
doesn't matter, exactly. Maybe the baby will join us when she's not screaming. But yeah, please do. And if you have a show, part of getting yourself out there is talking. And we'd love to hear about what you're doing, and we especially want to hear from people that are trying some new things that are different and exciting. And we want to pick your brains and see what you're learning. So check us out. You can find Tim Street where?
At One Tim Street on Twitter. And
you can find me at Lon Seidman, LonSeidman on Twitter, my secured Twitter account. And you can also get us at behindthevideo.com. So join our community today, post haste. So that'll do it for this edition of Behind the Video. We are a wrap.
Stories for this episode were compiled by producer Jason Perrier.
follow him on Twitter at JASONPERRIER. Behind the Video is a production of Ape Digital Incorporated and the Independent Media Network LLC. All rights reserved.